not sure why I've been given the global perspective. I didn't even go to COP, I didn't go to Lima, but HSBC does want to be the world's leading international bank. Maybe that's the reason for it. My partner in crime, Zoe Knight, did attend, and sort of we spoke every day about all the cocktails she went to and all the networking events that happen at these things. But anyway, so what happened in Lima? It was a really good build-up. We had New York, which was really, really great. Lots of things happening in New York. And we had the IPCC, the culmination of everything coming together saying, basically, we have a problem. Then we had the China-US bilateral in November. That was fantastic. It was all going smoothly in the first week, and then we hit the second week of Lima. We had some sticking points, and sadly, I'd like to say, they were the same sticking points that we've always had at these COPs. We had a transparency problem. We had some countries saying that we don't want other countries to look at what we submit, or the way we do it, or to come under any scrutiny, because it could be a national secret. That doesn't really help when you're trying to do a global negotiation for a global cause and a global outcome. We had finance being a problem. Yes, there were funds committed to the GCF, Green Climate Fund, $10 billion. That may sound like a lot, but I hear Bill Gates has a lot more than 10 billion himself. Mr. Wai-Shin probably has more than that as well. So in the grand scheme of things, on a global scale, 10 billion isn't really enough. Sorry to be disappointing there. And then we had the INDC content. Yes, the European Union, the EU said we should focus on emissions mitigation, and I'd like to agree with that point, because if you include other aspects of it, adaptation, methods of implementation, and the transparency issue, it could, from our point of view, slow down the submission process. That is a problem. I'll hold that thought. I think the key outcome from Lima, as I'd like to summarize it, is that we actually had lower degrees of certainty. What do I mean by that? If you read through the text very, very carefully, it says countries might do this, or to do this with a view to do something, possibly. So this is really legal wriggle room. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but legal wriggle room gets you out of a lot of things when you add these words in. It also had narrower degrees of inclusion. So for those able to submit their INDCs by the end of March, that's good. And it said, and also for those countries in a position to do so. This reminds me of the Carlsberg advert where it says, you know, if Carlsberg were a bank, it would probably be the best bank in the world. Now why? Because the guy hands over a wad of cash and says, just pay back when you can. That's what in a position to do so means. It's not really conducive for business there. So looking forward to Paris, trying to be a bit more positive here, the UCA will happen. We will get a universal climate agreement in December. What we need to ask ourselves is the level of ambition of this universal climate agreement. Will we actually get to something which will keep warming to within 2 degrees? We've already mentioned the INDCs. I'm of the view that if you only aggregate it on the 1st of November, in time for the Paris COP, which begins on the 30th of November, you've got 1 month to aggregate everything globally that comes in. I'm not sure how much will come in globally, but that will include an absolute target, a relative target, a business as usual target, and a peak target. All these different things are quite hard to add together. Adding an absolute reduction, so the EU's 40% by 2030 from 1990, that's an absolute, that's easy to add on, but adding to that a peak, we'll let the mathematicians in the room figure that one out, how you actually do that. Differentiation is and continues to be a problem. The wording here was a big argument, not over whether CBDR, common but differentiated responsibility, should be included, but whether the word in front of it should be historical CBDR, those developed countries who've already done a lot, or evolving CBDR, whether this CBDR, the differentiation, should change. These little words, I don't think, were picked up as much sort of in the reports after the COP, but that's very, very important. So when we're arguing what should go into the text, these are little things that will come out. Will it be historical? Will it be evolving? The other sticking point, which we think will be a big barrier to get over as we run up to Paris, is loss and damage. Now, 2014 was hot. We all know that. NOAA said it was the hottest year ever. That's great. So did the Japanese Meteorological Agency. We're going to see more discussion over loss and damage when the extreme events of 2015 will hit us. We've already started with bushfires in Australia. Again, the US is very, very cold. Cold is a part of climate change, that's okay. The US Senate, bless them, voted on whether climate change is real or not. I like that. You know, whether it's real or not, you just vote on it. That's brilliant. Now, I like what the president said the other day in the State of the Union. He says, I'm not a scientist. Great, well, I'm not a scientist either, but he knows a lot of good scientists, and they say that climate change is real, and we have a problem. So the political aspects of it will affect what countries are going to go towards the loss and damage. It will be a bumpy road to Paris. We've got the negotiations in Geneva, as already mentioned. We've got Bonn, possibly another set in August and October. What are they arguing over? They're arguing over the little things. Now, what's little? They're arguing over whether the actual agreement should begin on the 1st of January 2020, the 31st of January 2020, the 1st of January 2021. They're saying when should it end? So an agreement post-2020, they're not arguing about what we should do together collectively. They're actually saying, when's it going to start? You know, does that give us an extra year? So I don't think that's particularly helpful towards these things. What will be very important throughout the year, and it's something to watch, is whether the negotiations are able to whittle down the text from 100 pages to something that's more readable. What happened in Lima actually was that the non-paper draft text expanded from 23 pages to about 111 pages. That doesn't really help when you're trying to agree on something. Positively, sorry for sounding so negative this morning, it's a Monday. Positively, we think carbon pricing will begin to shape things throughout the year. We've already had Korea start its emission trading scheme. China is talking more and more about the national scheme, which could happen during the 13th five-year plan period. There was a lot of talk in carbon pricing in Davos. And a lot of companies, so this is what happens from the business perspective, a lot of companies themselves are saying, we need a carbon price, we need certainty. And I think when the businesses on the ground are asking for that, that's a very good thing. But to sum up, it's not really about what's going to happen in the Universal Climate Agreement, it's whether it's going to be ambitious or not, and we will start to find out in March when those countries in a position to do so are ready to submit their INDCs. Talk about that later. Thank you.